Hey, how is everybody today? My name is Kevin, and this is Not Just Idle Chatter with also Damien Echols. Say hey, Damien.
Hello, everyone.
And Jessica Pimentel.
Hi, everybody.
So Jessica's a very special guest today. I'm sure people might know of Jessica as one of the main actresses on Orange is the New Black. She is also the lead singer of a band, heavy metal band called Alekhine's Gunn. And she has known for many, many other roles in many other actressing circles. And and
By acting. Yes.
she acts and stuff. But this is a nice introduction because Jessica and I have known each other for a couple years. We're both fellow metalheads. We run around in the music scene. So Damien has not actually met Jessica before, and the neat thing is, both of them have some similar stories as far as the type of stuff that they practice. So I wanted to be able to kind of start off and introduce everybody today on Here We Are. So
Here
Damien.
we are.
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you, Jessica, for being here with us today. You do have, but right off the top of my head, I want to let everybody know before I forget this, because I do have a very bad memory. Would you tell everyone the name of the band and the name of the songs that are out now?
Okay, well, we are currently working on a little, we've had some songs in the vault kind of just sitting there, and we haven't been playing out for various reasons, and we're mixing them, mastering them right now. The name of the band is Alekhine's Gunn, and you can find us on SoundCloud and Bandcamp and Instagram and all that stuff. So when the mixing's done, we're going to release 3 songs, and most of them are kind of perfect timing right now. One of them is called Tonglen, and it's about a Buddhist practice of taking and giving pain and peace. The second is 21. It's an homage to the 21 Taras, but done in a way that I don't think has ever been done before. In the sense that usually when you do this recitation prayer, it's usually chanted quite beautifully with a very sweet voice. This is kind of harnessing the wrathful energies of Tara, and it is a death metal song, and it's pretty brutal. And the last one is called Neparchiwa in Tibetan, and English is called Certain Death, and those are the 3 that are out. It's a death meditation, just to remind you that death is certain and the hour of death is not, which is kind of pretty appropriate for the times that we are experiencing right now.
What I used to practice, the form of Buddhism that I used to practice was Zen, Japanese Zen. And I used to be really envious of you guys, like people who practice Tibetan Buddhism, because y'all had all of this stuff. You got all
we had all the extra stuff, bells and whistles, literally.
The prayer wheels and the different taras in Zen, it's like we get nothing. You're supposed to just sit there. But we were talking before we started recording, and I was asking you, when you were talking about the taras, did you have one that you favored more than the others, one that you feel more devotion to?
I don't favor any of them. They're all essentially different parts of just like your mind. You have a good day, you have a bad day, you have a wrathful day, you have a cuddly day. Like you might be bashing your fist into a wall one day and cuddling with your puppy the next day. They're all kind of the same essence of the same energy, but there are so many different ones. I think Kurakula is one that I really like. In Tibetan, her name is Tararigje Lamo, and she's very beautiful and holds a bow and arrow.
Is she the red one?
Yeah, she's red, and she holds a bow and arrow to shoot. Yes. She shoots you with love, with a weapon, with the arrow, and it's an arrow made of flowers. It explodes, and you like die from love. It's pretty intense, But they go from very peaceful and beautiful forms to extremely wrathful forms. And I think it's kind of like, the medicine that you need. You have to find out which one you might need that day or that week or for whatever you're going through. And you have a collection there, which is very nice.
There's a lot of people don't realize how much of an overlap there is between like certain Tibetan Buddhist practices and Western ceremonial magic practices. They're things like, the reason I was asking if you like the Red Terror, if that's who you were talking about, is because one time I was doing this research into like planetary energies, and in the West we have Venus, and she's identified with all these different goddesses, and I was looking at how the Red Terror was basically the Tibetan version of Inanna or Astarte. And there were all these like little side benefits that came with like these devotional practices to her that weren't supposed to be the goal of the practice, but were just like these little beneficial side things. Like they said that if you like do these devotional rituals to her, that it's like people will automatically like you a little more, or people will be more inclined to like you.
That happen. There are four kind of main practices. There's a purification practices, and then there's let's say increase wealth or health, and you have pacifying, and then you have destroying. So within the Tibetan Buddhist pantheon, there are so many different gods. I won't say gods is the wrong words. Deities, protectors, images. And the great thing about that is you can find which one kind of speaks to you the best. That way you'll be able to do your practice the best. So there's not just one red Dakini, there's multiple. There's also the secret practices of Vajrayogini, let's say, that she's seen kind of as the pinnacle of all the feminine energy and wisdom, but that's a practice that's not for everyone, because it is a little bit more advanced, where something like a green Tara is kind of the most straightforward, easy for devotion, easy to picture, not a lot of symbols to do. The mantra is very short and sweet. She doesn't have faces and fangs and heads and arms. She's, 2 arms, 3 eyes, 2 eyes. It kind of, as you go, you figure out what works for you and what you're trying to develop, and you'll see, in your practice, you start to change, and the world around you just starts to change, because your radio waves have changed out there. What you put out.
Yes, exactly. What I always try to describe to people is the most powerful magic you do is magic you do to yourself, because of essentially you are going to create the world around you. So when you yourself, you automatically improve the world that's around you in some way.
Absolutely. People can be shouting curses at you and words that maybe they mean to hurt you, and they might even actually bring you joy, which has happened to me in my life when someone was trying to hurt me, and I felt like this relief that I didn't even feel it. Not only that, it made me laugh that they were trying so hard. And then here's the other flip side. I even felt compassion for them, that whatever was bothering them so much, please let me figure out a way that I can help take that away from them, so that they never feel like this again. What a terrible feeling, So here you have someone who is an outwardly looking as an enemy, has now become something that I actually love and I'm cherishing, because it's going to make me a better person. And it's a way to measure how much you've changed and how your power has changed.
So in the time that we're in right now, like with the quarantine going on, I don't know how severe it is everywhere, but in New York, I mean, people are pretty much locked down 24/7. And it's not like in a lot of other states where, people have backyards or front yards, or they can travel somewhere, but people are like living a really monastic life right now, in these small cell-like structures. If someone is listening to the stuff that you're talking about and wants to know more about this, wants to get, like, if they have no knowledge of any Tibetan practices whatsoever, and they're wanting something that's very entry level, easy to understand, that's going to give them something that, like, maybe small meditation techniques that they can even use right now, that's going to help them cope with what's going on, where would you point them to?
There's a lot of great resources. If you're able to get books, because I know Amazon is not delivering and a lot of stores are closed, but if you're able to do some like Kindle type things, Pema Chodron, What Color Is Your Mind, is a great introductory question answer, like a little child would ask. That's an easy one. And the Book of Buddhas is another great one that is just very, if you're actually interested in like a Tibetan Buddhism or Buddhism as a religion. If you're more interested in Buddhism as an anthropological study, I would say Why Buddhism is True by, I think it's Robert Wright. I don't want to give the wrong author, but the book Why Buddhism is True, for those of you that are more scientific, of like, why does this work? How does changing the way I think or act make me happier, you know, not without thinking of Buddhas or gods or anything outside of yourself. Then there's internet. Most of us have it. We all have our phones. You can go to a website like buddhanet.net, and they have a great course that goes on there from beginning 101 up until, you know, up till secret teachings. Wisdom, where a great, very well-known publisher of books, Wisdom, has the Wisdom Experience. I'm actually taking courses on that. And you can take these courses like if you were taking college classes on your own time. There are quizzes even. It's a really in-depth Wisdom Experience. FPMT is another one that is very reputable. They're very into keeping the lineage pure, not inserting new things, giving you the facts the way they were, not corrupting teachings. And online, if you're looking for guided meditations, I love Robina Corton. She's great. She's an Australian nun, and also Pema Children and Tibetan Children. But we can give you links later. But those ladies are my favorite. And for those of you that are a little more scholarly, I love Bob Thurman. He's great. And the Dalai Lama, you can't really top that.
Yeah. You just switching tracks for a second. You started playing music at the age of 2.
Yeah.
Was that through your choice, or was that something your parents chose for you?
I don't know if I was playing music, but I was making noises with instruments. My mother was working at the Board of Ed in New York, and someone had retired, and they, you know, cleaning out their office. He gave her this violin. It was like a toy-sized violin, obviously for a child. And I brought it home. I loved it. I would, you know, screech and scratch on it. And as karma would have it, my next door neighbor was a concert violinist, heard me screeching and scratching, and started giving me my first, you know, kind of formal lessons up until about the age of 4 or 5, something like that. And then I started just playing by ear. There was a record store around the corner from my house, and they would put out all the records they didn't want at the end of the week, or that they were just, you know, getting rid of. Most of them were classical music, and I would learn things by ear. And then finally, when I was in elementary school, there was an after-school program. I was like a lot of New York kids that had single mom or single dad or parents that worked late, so we stayed in the after-school program. And you could either be, you know, a brownie, or you could take music violin lessons. And of course my mom wanted me to take the music lessons, but I already in my head knew how to play music, so I would cut, you know, the violin class and go to be a Girl Scout. And then someone ratted me out. My mom came down, and then I proved to them that I could play music. They brought the director of the Rusa School of Music down, who was sponsoring these lessons for the children after school. They gave me a full scholarship, and that was the beginning of my formal training as a violinist.
And you've actually played at Carnegie Hall here in the city.
Played several times, yeah.
That is one of those I mean, that place is like part of the fabric of New York. It's like when you play there, you are playing in New York history.
Absolutely.
Have you always lived here in the city? You were born and raised?
Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Born and raised
anywhere else?
Well, I mean, I've done short stints in other places. For example, if I'm doing a play, I might live in a town for 3 or 4 months, but I hardly call that moving. It's kind of like a vacation, so to speak. And currently, for the last 5 years, I've split my time between New York and Stockholm.
Do you think this will always be home?
Oh, there's no place like New York in the world.
I'm just wondering how, like for me, I came here, like all of my adult memories, you know, every memory I have of my adult life has been made in New York. So for me, it's like when people ask me, where did I come from? I don't really think of anywhere, prison, you know, but most of my memories as an adult are from here. And I always wonder if it's that same way for people who are born and raised here. People, whenever they meet, and I say meet because it almost feels like New York is a character in your life. You know,
it is
not like other cities. It's for some, it feels like you become part of it. And I was just wondering, like, are you numb to that if you're born and raised here, or do you?
Absolutely not. I still find that I can walk around for hours and see something I've never seen before. I can walk down the same street and see something that I've never seen before, whether it's people doing something I've never seen before or a piece of architecture that I've never noticed before.
Yeah.
There'll be like that little angel at the top of the 23rd floor corner, you know, on 57th and 7th that you're like, oh, I never saw that dragon there. All these years I've passed this building 1,000 times. It never gets old. Every day is a new experience. Every day you're going to find something new. This city is magic, and it's a living, breathing thing that has its own character. You can even tell when you're walking down the street when you've changed neighborhoods.
Yes.
You know, like the vibe just slightly changes from that one street to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, New York is definitely one of those things. When I was growing up, I grew up in Maryland in the outskirts of Baltimore. And, you know, I'd always seen New York in movies and TV shows and all that stuff. And growing up, you just like, it's its own entity that you were like fixated on. So when I actually had the opportunity to come here, and when I moved here in the early 2000s, right before 9/11, it was just a surreal moment to know that you're in this own breathing creation that's not, and that's why it's like a lot of people say there's New York and there's not New York. And there's something about New York to where it feels like its own little contained world.
Yeah, we say, I'm not from America. I'm not from America. I'm from New York.
Yeah,
then
exactly.
Then when we leave New York, we go to America.
Yeah.
It's its own thing.
You know what? I honestly think that's one of the things, you know, it's like, I think this is one of the few cities, maybe the only city in the U.S. that is a world city. It's not a U.S. city. You know, it's like I walk out my front door and I live in like a predominantly Nigerian neighborhood. You know, so you see, I see like traditional Nigerian costumes going down my street. Where else in the U.S. am I going to see that other than here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just great because walking down the street, just walking down the street, it's just awesome because one block changes to the next, and so many cultures and the type of food and the environment and the smells, like everything just, it hits you. And it's like, you can't go anywhere else in the country, let alone the world, and have that same type of experience. And it's like, even when you go to leave and try to come back, it's like a little trigger that happens in your brain. You're like, wow, like I've had a love-hate relationship with New York, but you leave for a little bit and you come back and you're like, oh my, like your eyes open back up to everything that you might have missed. And if you were gone for 2 weeks, it's like everything's changed around me, but it's still the same.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Growing up as a New Yorker, I am extremely spoiled because you have anything and everything you want at your fingertips 24 hours a day. If you want to go bowling at 3 a.m, you can. If you want to go to a disco at 11 a.m. or 1 p.m, you can. Every food, every culture, every religion, every activity, everything is here. You know, so when you leave a place like this, especially you go to a metropolitan city and you're expecting it to be the same and you can't get a bagel to save your life.
For me, it was the museums. Like the museums here are like top of the line, absolute best of the, you know, like top 4 museums in the world. We have one here. So that was the first museum I've ever really been to in my life, is seeing like the Metropolitan Museum. So then everywhere I would go to after that, that's what I would be expecting to see whenever I would go. It would always be a little bit disappointing.
And I was lucky enough to grow up here. So our homework assignments were sometimes from high school. I went to High School of Performing Arts, and we would have to find a painting at the Met or you know, anywhere, and discuss it and draw it or whatever your major was. And that was like an everyday thing for me. So I feel extremely lucky of where I grew up. I was exposed to so many things, good, bad, and ugly, you know, and indifferent by living in this city, you know. So I feel very, very thankful for that. I think it's so funny when people come here, they're like, we're going to hit the Met and then the Museum of Natural History, and then we're going to hit this museum. I'm like, no, you're going to need like a month to just figure out where you are in the Met, and then let's talk.
Yeah. I always tell people, and this is true, no matter how much you love it, when you first move here, for someone who doesn't come from here, New York will beat the shit out of you for a while. I mean, no matter how much you like it, it still breaks you down because it's a completely different kind of life. So it's kind of like, really, it's an alchemical process. You know, it starts with grinding you down, breaking you down, so that then you can be turned into something new. I honestly do think there is some kind of energy here that helps people reach their highest potential.
It is absolutely energetic. Not just that, we have collective energy. That mass of us being in such a small place
Yes.
is amplification of that, and the fast-paced life. I mean, kids are grinding before they're even born in New York. They're grinding for preschool before they've even come out of the womb. You know, I had to ask my 7-year-old niece to pencil me in a couple of weeks ago through her activities, and she knows exactly what that means. You know, we have a life of competition here, and it is a bit of survival of the fittest as well.
Yeah, and I think with Damien and I growing up in smaller towns, kind of being subjected to, let's say, religion, you know, when the town that I grew up in, it was like, all right, you were Christian. Anything outside of Christian, you were Satan. Like, it just, nobody really understood the concept that there are different religions and different beliefs out there, and everything was just very taboo. So I grew up in a Christian household where it was like, all right, on Wednesdays you go to caravan and Sundays you go to church, and that was it. And that's kind of what we were raised on. And as I started growing up, I started questioning my own beliefs as far as, you know, what did I truly find value in? And if it was necessarily going to be with Christianity, or if it was going to be with Buddhism, or if it was going to be with anything. And I think with New York, you know, Jessica, you were brought up at a very young age, you know, with the opportunity. You were raised Christian, and then in your teens, you were introduced to Tibetan Buddhism, correct?
I was raised in a very loving Christian home, not a fire brimstone kind of, you know, situation. But as I got older, these bad things were happening, and there was no real answer other, you know, than, you know, because God said so. And that really wasn't working for me after a while when things got really bad.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that I had a wonderful aunt, my Aunt Ruth, who's a very spiritual, wonderful, perfect Christian, you know, I would say in the most perfect way. And my grandmother as well. And they would say, just pray, you know, pray to God. God will, you know, give you the clarity. God will give you the guidance of why this is happening. But it just was not happening for me. Then I tried, you know, the other way. I was like, okay, well, if God isn't working, come on, Satan, take me away. And I was like, this isn't working either. This is a lie too. This is a lie too. And that was when I was really young. I didn't really know what it was. I would say I was about 11 or something years old. And this is also a time when a lot of my friends were going through their bat and bar mitzvah times. So I was going with them to Hebrew school after school, because all my friends were going to Hebrew school. So I was like, I want to go too. And reading Torah and reading, you know, like apocryphal texts and angelic script and stuff like that. And that was kind of, you know, hitting some spots, because now you're getting into more mystical things. And that's starting to ring true. And then I had always been a meditator since I was a child. My mom taught me at a young age. And something told me to kind of go back to my roots. And I started studying Native American religions and animism and practices, like things that my grandma did around the house, like how to make medicine from plants and praying from instinct, not from a script, so to speak. And that was kind of working. And I said, you know, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And my mom had a book on the shelf called Religions of the World. I'm like, that sounds good. All in one place. Let's go. So first was Christianity and Judaism. I'm like, okay, there's some stuff here that makes sense, but some doesn't. Animism, I've been through that, and kind of getting back to your roots, your ancestors, your homeland, things like that. And then I started to see, I was part of the New York hardcore scene at that time too. It's around now 13 years old, 14 years old. And you have bands like 108, and you have Cro-Mags, and you have this Krishna consciousness that's kind of humming around. And went to some, you know, Krishna temples. And I'm like, you know, some of this sounds good. Some of it is clicking, some of it is not. And then going through the chapters in the book, the next chapter was the Tao Te Ching. Now, the Tao Te Ching is about as Vulcan and as logical as it gets. Like, everything is your fault. 1 + 1 is 2. And that was it. So it wasn't about anything outside yourself. It wasn't about even a religious feeling. It was about how can I control my life through my actions,
Yes.
whether they're positive or negative, and seeing that if you put your hand in the fire, it will burn. That's it. There's no more to it. There's no less to it. And I was really like devouring this because it was just so logical, made sense, and there were no unanswered questions, which was the hardest part for me to swallow when I was younger. There was no kind of blanket statements here. And then in high school, I was like, yeah, I'm a Taoist. I think that's it. Very logical, calm. It's about how I control my mind, and that's it. And my English teacher had us read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse and write an essay about it. And I compared the entire story of the Buddha to the Tao Te Ching without even reading for what it was. I just compared the whole thing because I was so engrossed in this Tao Te Ching thing. And he's like, I think you should take a look at Buddhism. You know, I think you would really get a kick out of it. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'm a Taoist, but whatever, I'll take a look. The next chapter in the book, Religions of the World, was Buddhism. And I saw the emaciated Buddha and I was like, oh no, this is not appealing to me. I don't like this. What is this? I don't want to starve myself, you know? Then reading the story again, reading Hermann Hesse again. Okay, I get it now. And then you go through a sacrifice and it's a great movie, you know? And then seeing how a lot of it is worship that remind me very much of how people blindly worship. And that was not interesting to me either, because many people do blindly worship. But then I got towards the end of it and I read the chain of dependent origination, which is the formula of why suffering exists, front to back and back to front. Because grasping, because desire, because, and it was a chain that it completely explained everything. And I wept and I said, that is it. That is the answer. And from then on, I started going on my quest, so to speak, back in the olden days before Google, looking for a teacher. And so I just knew that that's where I belonged. And funny enough, you know, Kevin was working with this tattoo removal service. And I only have one tattoo, and it's this eternal knot there. And it's something that I saw in a magazine when I was a little kid, and I cut it out and I always kept it with me because I thought it was so pretty. And later I thought it would be a cool tattoo, and I used to draw it on me. And then finally when I got into Buddhism, I saw that this said, Buddhism, good luck, not knowing the real meaning of what it meant. And I got it tattooed on me, and this tattoo is what led me to my teacher, finding my teacher. Because someone saw it on me and said, come here, kid, check this out. And that's kind of the beginning of the story.
Does it ever seem to you, and this is just something that I've noticed in American Buddhism, it sounds like you have a lot of different teachers out there now who are basically sort of repackaging like baby boomer values and mentality and things like that, repackaging it in like putting a Buddhist stamp on it and passing that off as Buddhism. Whereas like true Buddhism, like you're talking about these advanced practices, the ultimate goal of these things is essentially and ultimately the annihilation of consciousness, you know, becoming nothing. What would you point someone to that is more about those true hardcore Buddhist practices, not for beginners, but for someone who maybe has been investigating things out here in the Buddhist realm, but hasn't found anything that clicks with a deeper meaning for them yet?
Right, because Western Buddhism is something new. I am going to disagree with you there that the goal is not becoming nothing, it's becoming everything. There's a big difference between it's not a nihilistic goal. It's when you finally see the true nature of all things, which come from a non-self-existent I. That sounds really easy, right? A couple weeks, you'll master it. The problem is I don't think it's just baby boomer mentality. I think just Western Buddhism in general, or what is being labeled as Buddhism, has become kind of this commercial, watered down, quick fix for things. Like people throw around mindfulness.
Exactly.
Mindfulness is great. That's a piece of meditation. That's not meditation. Thinking of nothing is not meditation. You know, Robina Corton says, or she says, she quotes her teacher quoting his teacher, you know, even a thief needs mindfulness. Mindfulness is just not losing track of what you're doing from point A to point B. So, and that also comes with this new yoga culture. Like, you want a hot body, do yoga. You want to relax, do yoga. Yoga's not just for relaxing and looking hot. It is a practice that changes the way your body works and the way your mind thinks, the way energy flows within you. I think a lot of new teachers are popping up, and I say, you know, what are your qualifications other than you had a cool experience that you overcame? We don't have that same monastic culture like we do in Tibet. I would say if you can find, I was very lucky to find the abbot of Serame Monastery, Ken Rinpoche Losang Tarchin. His books are amazing. They're available at the MSTP, Mahayana Sutra, and Tantra Press.us. His books are spectacular. But Tantra needs to be done with a teacher, because even if you get the book, you're not going to get it all. That's first of all. And you need to be shown how to do certain meditations properly, or you can confuse yourself, creating more karma or more confusion or more depression. Or you can, in certain practices that involve energetic movement of your winds, you could actually hurt yourself physically. There are some meditations that increase or decrease body temperature, for example, or increase or decrease heart speed, things like that. So if you do it the wrong way and you're not ready, you can do some damage. There are very few of the old ones left, but there are some young ones still coming up. You know, I think you got to do your research. But my teacher who did pass did leave some great books. Gelek Rinpoche is another one who also passed this last year. He left some great books and teachings online. Jewel Heart Center is called. He has great teachings online, audio and books as well. Gyurme Khensa Rinpoche teaches out of Connecticut at the Donak Kempo Ling. A lot of Tibetan for you today. He's one of the last few great ones. And then what you can do is try to find their students and their disciples, and who will continue the tradition without kind of like updating it for us cool Americans.
Very nice.
And I know you try to practice Buddhism in your daily life, and you know, you do a lot of different things as far as acting and your band. How have you felt the need, you know, it seems like when you started your band to integrate the Buddhism practice within there, how did you feel that went when you started off with it? Did you have any reservations with it as far as how people may take to it? You know, can you tell us a little bit about how you formed this?
Well, there comes a point if you are, especially Tibetan Buddhist, where you actually take a vow to make all things you do practice, whether that is walking, breathing, eating, taking a shower, using the computer, cutting the lawn, cooking eggs for your lover. Everything you do is practice. So I still love to play music, and I thought, what music do I have to play like hippy dippy, like guitars and a swing now? Like, how am I going to do this? Because that's not me. What do? I play metal. I love metal. I love classical. I love metal. I love electronic. But what I do love, what I find the most about the music that I like, it tends to be very dark. So why am I attracted to dark? Because there's something in me that's perhaps dissatisfied, or perhaps there's something in me that is generally wired dark or depressive or sad. I'm an empath. I feel a lot of pain. I feel other people's pain. So maybe I'm not the only one out there, right? Maybe other people are sad, or maybe they're dissatisfied with their government or the world around them. They don't want the white picket fence. For them, the song about getting the girl is not doing it. For them, it's something deeper. They want to know the meaning of life. They want to overthrow the government. They want to, I don't mean, overthrow the government, but they think there's a better way to do things, or they're not wired like shiny, happy people that just want a car and a house and the girl and the dog and that's it. There's more to life, and there's more afterlife for them, and those are usually people that are attracted to this kind of music. They're passionate people. They're fiery. They're curious. They question things, and so I thought this is actually the perfect platform for me to explore things that have already been explored in heavy metal music for 100 years, because metal has been around for 100 years. You know what I mean? We're with this medium, we are able to talk about things that are not bubblegum pop, for everyday things that do go a little deeper. And I thought there's nothing more fire and brimstone than something like, the Crown of Knives. It's wheel of sharp weapons is a meditation on how every action that you do that is negative is only like wearing a crown full of razor blades that slowly chops you to death by your own actions. I mean, I think that's a pretty metal reference. And there's a certain amount of fire and passion that you need to practice certain parts of Dharma, because you have to be strong, and you have to be willing to face the darkest parts of yourself in order to fix things, not just yourself, but fix the world around you. It's not pleasant when you look in the mirror and see how fucked up you are and the pain that you caused others, and you suffer those consequences. And in turn, if you don't correct that, you continue to give it back and get it back. So I thought, why not use this opportunity to get people who are self-aware, who are curious, who are passionate, who are angry, who are depressed, and give them tools on how to deal with those emotions.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, Kevin?
I think that I'm good on my end. I didn't know if I know clearly, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on in the world right now. And, Jessica, you were lucky to be able to get out of New York to go be with Thomas at this time. And obviously we're living in moments where people are feeling a strain of uncertainty on what's going on. And clearly there's a lot of belief and practices that people can be focusing on, or ideas and mentalities or mantras or anything that could help get them through the day. Is there anything that you focus on to be able to try to take the stress out of any particular moments? Like, let's say, this quarantine that's happening right now in New York. I think they're actually just starting to enact that anybody from New York leaving New York, it is going to be illegal. Apparently they are saying that if we are leaving the city, that the police have the right to pull us over, or we will need to be quarantined. I can believe both sides of the fence as far as how that may be helpful to not spread things further.
Right.
But it's becoming very stressful for people right now in our city, because now the quarantine is really starting to feel the effect, and people are starting to be like, oh, this is now turning into a police state or anything like that. And stresses are starting to elevate higher and higher. And we're stuck in our houses, and there are people that just don't know what to do. Their money may be running out because clearly they're losing their jobs. Is there a bit of wisdom or a prayer or anything that you can help guide them through that they may be able to work through things?
Okay, the first thing, people are upset because they're stuck in their homes. Be happy you have a home.
Yeah.
You're not stuck in your home. You're safe in your home. Also, you think, my life, my job, my business, my food, my family, my money, everyone is going through this. So it may seem bleak right now, but this is something that we are all going through, with a very small percent of people that are free of worrying about money. Even people who you think have money are worrying about money and jobs and livelihood and all that. So know that you're not alone going through this. Everyone is going through this. So think of all your neighbors and your friends and family. You're not the only one, and it will take time, but it will get figured out. Another thing is you have this precious life, and it is more than ever shown how quickly it can be taken from you, from the simplest thing of touching someone's hand or sneezing in the wrong direction. It is your responsibility as an interconnected being in this universe. It is your responsibility to not just take care of yourself, but take care of everyone around you by being as extremely cautious as you can. One thing that you do today could kill someone next week, if you think of it that way. And do you really want to be responsible, not just for taking a life, but then ruining the lives of everyone that loves that person because you wanted to go to a party or something like that? Is that really even worth it? And I think also His Holiness the Dalai Lama has suggested that people do Tara mantra. It's a very simple mantra. I could do that later for you. But for those of us that don't have an affinity to Buddhism, I would say a great exercise would be a Tonglen meditation. You can do it for yourself, or you can just do it for the world. In this meditation, essentially, I'll just give you the outline. Essentially, you envision the bad things that are happening right now as black smoke. And you are taking this black smoke. Let's say I'm looking at you right now in your video screen, and I see that you're full of this black smoke of suffering, anxiety, sickness, if you're sick, financial worry, you're tired, you're hungry, whatever it is. And I just picture this person full of that black smoke. I take that black smoke in, and I envision it being completely and utterly, honestly and truly believe that it is destroyed once it enters me and touches my heart. And from my heart, I send you whatever you need, be that peace, calm, a nap, some good idea of something to watch, some inspiration, money. I just picture, all your financial needs being met, safety, security, happiness. And you just do that back and forth until you really believe that you have sent it and it is real and it is true, because it is. It does change the vibration in your body and in the air around you. It's ions, positrons. Come on, it's science, So just use that energy. You're a big giant lightning rod of electricity, use it.
Yeah, I've been hearing Damien speak of this, exactly what you've been talking about since I met him in 2011. And it's all about putting the positivity out there and pushing the negativity away. And just, I think that's also helped carry me into looking at my own perspective on life a lot differently over these past couple years as well. Because, there were times when things were in a dark place for me. And then, with the help and guidance of the other people around me, it helps shine a new light into my own life that I've found has been very positive and helped me out. And with a good support group, it does make a huge difference. And, as long as people out there understand that this really works, if you have the belief and want to put the energy out there, that it can work for you.
It does. Impermanence also,
Yeah.
Impermanence. Things are bad. They're not always going to be bad. Guess what? Things are good. They're not always going to be good. Yeah. So if you can just get through it and have faith that it will change, because everything does change, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
So you just have to hang tough in there.
Yeah. And I mean,
and I also want to go ahead.
Yeah, being grateful for what we have right now. I mean, you struck a true note on that, because there are so many people out there that may have less, but it's, being able to try to help them if you can at the same time, or also be grateful for the things that we do have at the moment. It's amazing, Yeah,
and I gave you a breathing exercise. Think about what this coronavirus is doing for people who can't breathe. You're drowning in a bed. So breathe for them.
Yeah.
And picture yourself in that bed, the fear that it must be, the sheer terror of someone that doesn't want to die, that can't breathe, drowning in bed. send them peace if you can't send them air, and be thankful that you can still breathe another breath and do it for them.
Yeah. So, Damien, do you have anything else to add?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, I guess this is probably a good place for us to call it for the evening.
Yes.
You know, I know that we're dealing with major time zone difference right now, with it being about 6 o'clock in New York. And what are you over there?
I'm about 5 hours ahead of you right now. It'll be 6
Oh, yeah.
hours when they do time change.
Right on. So I guess we'll go around the room and just say where people can find you, and if there's anything that you want to be able to promote again, or if there's certain charities that you have in mind that you would like for people to take a look at. You know, obviously, it's always good for us to be able to spread the positivity and to be able to help out those around us at the same time. So, Jessica?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, the Crusher007, Twitter, the Crusher007, Alekhine's Gunn on Instagram, and Bandcamp. As far as charity goes, I think give to anybody, anywhere, anything you can. I have no specific charity that I can think of off the top of my head. Just give anything you can to anyone you can. If it's $1 or a hug, or no hugging.
Social distance hugging right now.
Hugging, no
air
hugging.
high-fiving.
But if you know, there's a lot of bartenders, service workers, entertainers out there, songwriters, crew, merch, service industry that is out of work right now. Hook them up, send them a Venmo, give them a random, whatever, $5, anything you can to anyone you can. And guess what? You'll get it back. I guarantee you, if not more.
I have friends that are in the service industry, and they are bartenders and waiters and you name it, and they depend on tips and stuff. And I've definitely seen there are tons of either GoFundMe's or charities, or someone put a spreadsheet together of all the bartenders and bars in the city that have obviously taken a hit. Clearly, it's on a global level at the same time, so I'm sure your local cities and towns are feeling the same effects. So, if someone hasn't had the opportunity to put something together, even by someone taking the moment and putting together a master list for other people to see the businesses and people that may have been affected, maybe there might be some sort of way for them to give to these people that are, in need. Again, $1 here or there, that stuff adds up and it helps, and it comes back around. You are right.
Absolutely.
And also, you guys can find me, Kevin Wilson, on Instagram and all social media at Kevin Wilson NYC. We have started a social media platform for this page at Not Just Idle Chatter. And Damien as well is...
just at Damien Echols, across the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. Charities, the only thing that I can add to the list would be the Rocky Mountain Feline Rescue, or any other rescue organization that's working with animals. Right now, people are in dire need. There's a lot, everybody's out there suffering right now, but sometimes animals can use a little help too, so keep them in mind.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention, as far as a charity that I tend to go after is Coalition for the Homeless. This is an organization that my wife is one of the directors for, and she's definitely helped put my mind in a different category as we met over the years. And this is a charity and an organization that I wholeheartedly believe in, and the support that they give to those who are living without homes, and being able to try to not just put a Band-Aid on the situation, but to actually try to help people get out of current situations and to help better their lives. So, I definitely believe in that one as well. Yes. All charities are good charities at the end of the day. So, if someone finds something that they like and they believe in, support it.
Absolutely. Great.
All right, guys. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for being here, and we will see you guys next time.